admit are we already up to admit the public, Lynn? Chair?
Yes.
See, Commissioner Fong is still muted.
Good morning, Ray.
Hi, good morning, Wes. We wouldn't want to start without you.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, are we all, have members of the public been let in?
Yes, Chair, we've got 2 members of the public with us today.
Okay, hang on here. I just have to fix one more thing on my screen and I will be ready to go. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Hawaii State Ethics Commission to order. Today is October 27th, 2021, and the time is 9:06. For our minutes, I'd like to note all the participants in this meeting. I am Commission Chair Melinda Wood. Vice Chair Fong, are you present?
Muted.
Here.
Commissioner Gralty,
Here.
Commissioner McCarthy,
Here.
Commissioner Tobias.
Present.
Thank you. I'll also note the presence of executive staff or of commission staff. I gotta jiggle my screen just a hair here. Director Daniel Gluck, Associate Director Yoza, staff attorneys Knifer and Campbell and Chong. Do we have Chang?
Actually, Chair, it's just Associate Director Yoza and me today, and then
okay.
Computer Specialist Louis, who's monitoring.
Okay, sorry. I understand.
Leo, sorry, Patrick.
Okay. I understand we have members of the public list in on our call today. Would you like to identify yourselves at this time?
Hi, good morning, Chair, members of the Commission, and staff. Sandy Ma with Common Cause Hawaii.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
the plane is going overhead. It's quite loud.
Thank you. Are any other members of the public? No? Okay. I would like to say that I am at home right now doing this, and I am expecting someone to knock on my door any minute to snake my kitchen drain. This is not of my choosing. They picked the time and I apologize for that. So I may have to walk away for a few brief moments, but I'm going to try not to. Okay.
That's no problem unless you're being evicted, Melinda.
No, they're just snaking the drains here. They're doing the entire building in one day, so this is interesting. Okay, so today's agenda item is discussion of matters relating to the hire of a new executive director and general counsel, including applicants for the position and interviews to be conducted by the commission. Okay. A moment here. The commission has only one agenda item for this meeting. So before the commission goes into executive session, I know the question of who asks which questions has come up, and I would like to propose a solution because I know Commissioner Fong has some specific questions. So let me make my proposal and we'll work Wes's questions in. Okay, I suggest that we set an order of asking.
Oh, sorry.
That's my grand opening music. Thank you. Here's my proposal, that we do this in the order in which we are called for voting. So I am question number 1. Wes as vice chair is question 2. Ray gets question 3. Harry gets question 4. Bev gets question 5. And then this repeats. So I would have question 6. And that is a long question. So I'd like to break this one up so that I would do the part, question 6 that's on page 1. And then, okay, then there's a question number 7 on the next page, yes. And that would be Wes.
Madam Chair, may I interrupt?
Question number, no, sorry. Can I go
No,
through
the reason
this
I bring it
first?
up is because this matter has been discussed previously. We've had an extensive discussion. I don't understand why we're stuck on these questions and going in the order that you're proposing.
I don't believe we settled an order of the questions.
No, what we said is that it should be freewheeling and the commissioner should be free to ask whatever questions they want to
And-
ask. We shouldn't be asking the questions you prepared for us to ask.
No, we agreed that these would be the questions that we will ask. We
They are-
agreed these are the questions.
No.
And after discussing this with staff, this will prevent us from having confusion and saving time. Okay, oh, who's going to ask this? Who's going to ask that? So I'm raising this as a proposal. And then I want to, because I know Wes has questions that he would like to see if they fit within this order or what we're going to do about that.
Madam Chair, we all have questions, but I may not want to ask question number 3. In order to evaluate the candidates, I'd like to ask some other questions. And you're saying we have to go down the road, 3, 8, 13. What for? What for?
Just so we know that each question will get asked in a timely fashion. Otherwise, we might be wasting our time debating over, no, I want to answer that, or I want to ask that, and someone else, then there will be pauses in the conversation. I am just proposing this. If
Ma'am,
you
we
let
voted
me-
on it. We discussed it and we said we want to be freewheeling.
And I was advised by staff that that is not going to be the most effective way to do this.
You didn't communicate
So-
back to us and say there was an objection. What kind of a discussion is this? I mean, I don't mean to be argumentative. All
You
I'm
are
saying is
being
that
argumentative.
I don't mean to be, but I want to ask the questions that I'd like to ask, not the ones you want to ask.
Can I add something here? As I recall from our last meeting about the questions, I think we decided the questions that are written here would be guidelines, that we could use them as guidance for ourselves and be free to ask any questions that we thought were appropriate. That was my recollection.
Same here.
Okay, well, my doorbell just rang. If you'll excuse me for a minute, I'll be back.
Just as a suggestion, I'd like to have her just kind of finish it. And then at the end of when she does it, perhaps we can go back and say, I would also like to ask question XYZ. That way we know we've covered all of the appropriate questions and then we can still ask our own, but just to kind of negate the whole thing at the start without listening to the whole process might be a little iffy in terms of what we're going to ask.
Yeah, the only response I would give, Bev, is that there's a lot of questions here. And we only have an hour and a half. We may not get to ask the questions we want to ask, so as to be able to make an informed decision. That's what I'm worried about. And I don't understand why I have to ask, what is the largest number of staff you directly? It's all in the resumes and the descriptions that the candidates themselves have given. It's redundant. So I don't know, but if you want to continue the discussion, I'm fine with that. But I'm not in agreement.
I'd like to finish the discussion. Or I'd like to finish just running down the list. And I think everybody's got the right order. You know which question would be yours. And I think people are free to deviate somewhat on their questions. So while I was out talking to the plumbers, was any decision reached without my
We
presence?
will not do that to you, Melinda. Give us-
What
give us
what
more
I said,
credit than
what
that.
I said, Melinda, was just, can we just go through and finish what you proposed and then maybe attach our questions afterwards? I don't know. I just would like to hear the whole thing, because I think within that hour, if it's not too verbose, we can have a discussion about what we want to ask.
Okay. So to proceed, question number 6 would be me. Question number 7 would be Wes. 8 would be Ray. And 8, okay, let's see. 8 would be Ray. 9 would be Harry. 10 would be Bev. 11 would be me. Okay, so everybody's got the picture here.
Yes.
Okay. And then so number 12 would be Wes, Ray, 14 would be Harry, 15 would be Bev, 16 me. Okay, and so on to the end. There's 20 questions. Now I believe that we agreed in principle that these are good questions and we can use them as our guidelines. We don't have to read them verbatim. Wes, I'd like to know what your 5 questions are in particular,
Well,
and see
yeah,
if they're-
sure.
if they're covered in these by any chance.
Actually, I made up 10 questions, but they correspond pretty much to the questions that were presented. I just actually reformatted the question with, I didn't like the way they were asked. I can give you examples, but I'm not going to, because this is a public session. That's pretty much it. I don't like the script, okay? But at the same time, I think I can get an understanding of what each of the questions is trying to get from the candidate. So what I did was I rephrased the question, that's all. But the subject matter is in there.
Okay, so-
That's my take on the whole thing. But I
Okay,
do
so
agree that, there are 5 different individuals that we have here. And 5 of us, or each individual, should have a way of trying to evaluate the candidate. And if they want us, to ask whatever questions they want, I think they should ask it and not be stuck with a script. Because it may not help me. Take, for example, it's number 7. That's so long, I don't even understand the question.
Yeah. Can I add a, oh, go ahead, Melinda.
no, please.
Okay, I read these questions and I agree with Wes and others that there's some good material in those questions. But, and I've read them and can incorporate what I think is important in the questions that I'm particularly interested in asking each candidate. I don't know if it was anticipated that we'd be submitting our own questions in advance. I didn't think so. And I've never done that before, but I can use these questions have been submitted as guidelines to inform me the particular questions I want to ask each individual candidate. I hope it wouldn't be overlapping or redundant with other questions, but I think that's the way interviews go sometimes. And so I think we just have to deal with that appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, I think the substance of question number 7 has to do with high demand competing priorities with a very short timeline for decision making. And if you,
Yeah, go ahead, Lynn. Excuse me. Go ahead.
and if you give someone more information instead of less, they may be able to respond better to the specific question. Whereas if you just say, how do you deal with stress? this goes into, you know, the competing demands of two different agencies and time and everything else. And so this helped elucidate that. So that
Yeah.
you don't have to go along with every line of it. On the other hand, you need to ask a question that deals with the legislature and the public and
Right.
pressure.
Melinda,
If you can
Melinda-
put together
Melinda,
that,
can I add something? You know, in my job, I've interviewed many people. And the way I usually handle it is I have like us, we have a panel of, to interview each candidate. And we go, like what you said, there's an order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you repeat that order. But within, like, for example, you're on the first position, ask anything you want. And I'll ask anything I want in number 2, and then Ray number 3, etc. Then you repeat. And I would think that most of the time, most of the answers that you get, I mean, you didn't have to repeat the question, but you have to be consistent in your questions, that you will ask everybody the same question. Or at least everything that we wanted to know will come out of the interview. I've never had a script, quote unquote, in regards to interviewing any of my candidates or, you know, people for the job. But, you know, these are good, you know, it's a good, how would you say, format, or the questions can bring out the issues that we want to bring out. That's about it, but I wouldn't like to read the questions. And again, we could stick with your recommendation, 1 through 5, 1 through 5, 1 through 5. And each person can ask his or her own questions.
you know, I understand that everybody here has probably had different experiences with interviewing. This protocol was used to select Dan. Reading these questions, this is what we used. It has been used by the Ethics Commission before. I didn't invent this, and the staff didn't invent this. This was collaboratively put together to search for the ED of the Ethics Commission. So all I'm saying that is that if we go in this order, if you would ask a question that is related to this topic, at the very least, somehow that would be very useful, because otherwise, if we were to miss a key area of something or another that's on here, that would be detrimental, because we have to ask the same questions in the same way to all of the candidates. And I've used this way, I've used your way. I think that we just cannot go completely off script and ask a different kind of question than the question that falls under any one person's purview. Like if the question say, under technology, okay, how would you rate your technical or computer skills? Well, if that's a Beverly question, the way I've got this written out. So now if Beverly doesn't want to ask about technology, if she thinks there's a more pressing question, then we as a committee are not going to find out about that person's skill unless somebody else picks up the question and some other topic gets left off the schedule of questions. So these are not a script. They are a guide of the types of information that we need to collect from the candidates, and we need to collect it in a way that's consistent from one person to the next. So if you just ask, so tell me about your computer skills, maybe that's enough, maybe that's not. It depends on how the person answers the question. So I probably would say that maybe these questions appear to be questions for idiots rather than for the smart people that we are. But we're trying to get a consistent set of information from our candidates so that we can evaluate them against each other rather than against our own particular interests. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
May I ask a question, Madam Chair? I have a particular interest in what kind of experience these three candidates have in adversarial proceedings or in contested case hearings. To me, that is one of the most important qualities of the executive director.
Okay.
How do I get to that point? I mean,
Well-
do I wait till the end?
No.
For example, Mr. Harris, you know, he may not have the contested case hearing background, but he may also have.
Sorry,
some-
can I interrupt,
Let me just-
Commissioner, can I interrupt?
Let me
I just want to note,
listen, I'll let you.
Sorry.
Something in his experience that may add to that. That's what I was just gonna say.
sorry, Commissioner, I just want to note, we're in public sunshine. We do have members of the public here. And so we have not been discussing the potential candidates' names in this.
All right, very well. But you get the question. The question is, do I get to ask that question or do I wait till the end, or assuming there's enough time, or
I
what?
think it's fair to ask a follow-up question to any of these questions, as long as it is clearly a follow-up question. And I think there is something exactly pertaining to what you said somewhere in here. And I think it is fair that if a commissioner doesn't feel like they've gotten the answer that they want to know more about in response to one question, a follow-up on that issue is always welcome and encouraged.
All right,
Okay?
I'm satisfied.
I'm not asking people to be rote automatons. I'm saying this is a process that worked and got us Dan. And so I would say that in general, it's not a bad set of questions and a bad protocol to use. So Wes, would you like to say something about what some of your questions are and where you might place them as replacements or follow-up questions to these in the form you've been
Sure.
given?
What I did was I did take the 20 questions. I'm assuming that what was done before worked, but I didn't like I guess how the question was phrased. So all I did was really rephrase the question. And, but the issue is there that I have asked, whether it be management or legal litigation experience, et cetera. I just asked it a different way. So that was my take on the whole thing. I think we should ask our the staff, is it mandatory that we follow these questions? Is this what it is, or is it recommended? Or can we, as we say, do our own thing and ask the questions that we want, and in the order of, you know, Melinda first and Bev last, and then repeat?
There is no, go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, Chair. I think what Chair was about to say is that there is no set process. The commission decides how it wants to evaluate the candidates for the executive director. So it is entirely up to you all as to how you want to do it. What I do hear, I think consistently from everybody, is that the questions should be consistent across candidates. That's just best HR practices to have the same questions for each person. So that you have a consistent evaluation. And I don't know whether the commission was thinking of having some sort of scoring sheet, also a certain number of points for each question. That's another tool that can help to make sure you're making decisions that are as objective as possible in this kind of a decision.
Let me add one other thought on this. And I agree with Melinda. I think the substance of these suggested questions are very good. But the manner in which they're asked is going to depend upon the individual questioner. For example, if Bev were to ask a question and I was interested in that answer to that question, I wanted to follow up, I would do that and not wait until my turn rolled around 5 times. I might forget it by that time. But to have the ability to listen carefully to the particular answers being given at that time and following up if you think it's necessary, I think is really important. So these things are helpful. I would try to incorporate some into my questions, but I definitely don't want to be hamstrung by them. My thoughts.
Thank you. I think that's a good summary. My concern about going off script very much is that we may, it's possible to go down one road with one candidate and then go down another road with a different candidate. We need to be fair and consistent across the 3 people, 4
I-
people, 10 people, however many we're gonna do.
Melinda, I agree with you. In all of the interviews that we've done, or I've done many, in the committee that we have, I said, you have to ask the same questions of each candidate to be fair. Can't be jumping around. So I think these 20 questions is a good roadmap for us to use. But what I did was I rephrased some of the questions because I didn't like the way it was asked. And then at the end, or anybody can follow up, after
Yeah.
that question is asked. And if there are any other questions after the 20 questions, he or she can ask, but it's got to be consistent. Because
Yes.
to be consistent is to be fair. You can't ask one candidate one thing and another candidate another thing. And it's pretty hard to go and judge both candidates unless it's a consistent question. That's my take on it. And I don't know if you need a motion or what.
Well,
I have one more question. It's a follow-up to what Harry said. It's not clear to me whether or not we can ask follow-up questions. You say, Madam Chair, we can't go down different roads. I understand that. But how are we going to ask the questions that we want to ask to determine who's the best candidate if we cannot ask follow-up questions? Or maybe the question should be, when do we ask our follow-up questions?
if
I
you
would-
have
I would
my-
say anytime, but use this as a roadmap. You can rephrase the question, but be consistent. You want to follow up right then and there. I don't want to wait to the end and say, oh, by the way, question number 7, whatever.
Well, I'm just reacting to what the chair said, that we cannot go down different paths when you ask your follow-up question. That's what I'm confused about.
No, I don't think she meant that, right, Melinda? We can ask our questions anytime, right?
Well, as long as the question that spurred you to ask your question is connected somehow or another.
Yeah, to answer your question, all my questions are related to the questions that have been presented. I just
Okay.
rephrase the questions in my own way because I didn't like the script, although I liked the issue that was supposed to be brought up. And I agree with Ray that, anytime any of the commissioners want to follow up, they should follow up. But they have to be consistent again. That's the big word. To me,
Yeah.
consistency is being fair.
That, and I understand, Wes, exactly what you're saying. To be consistent is to be fair. A follow-up for one particular candidate may not apply to another candidate. These are individuals, and the questions that we need to ask are focused upon their individual talents and their responses. So I think we want to have the flexibility to follow up a question with candidate A and maybe not necessarily the other two. So I think we really have to just use these as a guideline, take the substance from them and incorporate them in the questions that we're going to ask all 3 people, but have the flexibility to follow up with individuals as necessary.
I agree with you, Harry. When I say consistent, I mean the initial questions should be consistent. How many children do you have?
Yeah.
Then you can
Please don't
follow
ask
up. Are
that.
they, is it a girl, a boy, or whatever it may be? I don't know. But
Yeah,
no,
okay.
the follow-up questions, I agree, may be different for different candidates, but at least.
Well,
the
we could, I can
initial
understand that, and see the general question of what maybe all 5 of us would ask, or maybe one, why do you want to become the executive director of the Hawaiʻi State Ethics Commission? Boom. There's a question we want to ask everybody, I think, and let them respond to that. Things like that.
Yes, I agree. That's one of my questions.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, unless there's a motion that we need, why don't we just stick with the 20? You can rephrase the 20 and just follow up. How's that? And if you got anything else after that, you can add on, but just trying to be consistent, that's all.
Yeah.
Ray,
Okay with that?
Me too.
Bev,
I'm fine with it.
I'm sorry,
That's all.
Melinda, I'm taking away your, Yeah.
Yes, you have.
All right.
And that's all I was ever aiming to do. I kept getting interrupted, so I wasn't able to say, I want us to have an order in terms of who talks when. But as far as follow-ups, of course, if the question has been asked and somebody had an answer that seemed incomplete, of course, it's worth following up on.
okay. So
That's all.
we'll follow the 20 questions in the order that you presented. You're one, I'm two, and go on from there. Except
Does
I
any-
got,
Does anybody have any more concerns about the questions, the order that they'll be presented, and how they can be followed up on?
no,
No,
Nothing further.
no,
Okay, then I'm going to assume by consensus that we're going to accept these questions with human minor variations and additions as needed. Okay, so does any member of the public wish to testify on this? The kinds of questions we're asking the candidates. As you can figure out, we have a list of 20 questions.
Thank you, Chair Sandy Ma with Common Cause. I don't really have a comment or question on the list of 20 questions. I do have a question about the process. Several notices have
Okay.
gone out about the selection for a new executive director. Can you explain the process for the different meetings? Because the agendas all look similar.
Chair, I can, would it help? I'm happy to jump in if you'd like, or you're welcome to take it, obviously.
Well, I'll let you take it. I have some things to say, but I'm not sure that they're the right things. So go ahead.
Fantastic. Okay, so the commission had met back in September to decide what would be in the application process and set the deadline to apply by October 6th. On October 15th, the commission met to determine who would be interviewed. Today, the commission is meeting to discuss logistics about the meeting, as you've heard, about the interview questions, and also to decide on the final list of candidates for interviews. Interviews will be conducted on Friday, and then the commission may make a decision on Friday, or it may bump the decision to Monday. So there will be sunshine meetings on Friday and again on Monday, although the bulk of those will be an executive session.
Thank you. That was very helpful. I was really was for my scheduling purposes as to whether I needed to sign on. So thank you.
Thanks.
Dan was much more concise than I would be. So thank you, Dan. Anyone else?
Who is Blaze Lovell?
He is a reporter for Civil Beat, the online newspaper, online news
Oh.
source.
I see his name, but I don't see his face and I haven't heard from him.
Blaze, are you there? Maybe he was just hoping to be here and then got diverted by other work.
Okay, thank you.
Blaze? No Blaze, okay,
Could be just reporting. I mean, recording.
right, that's true. That,
Oh, sorry, I'm here. I just stepped away from my desk real quick.
oh, don't do that. That's when we talk about you. No. Did you have any questions? Liz?
Oh, no, I didn't. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. I know that sometimes things get worse before they get better in the order that my brain works. So there you go. All right, so if there are no more questions, then may I ask for a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, I'll go through the list. Okay,
I'm sorry, and this executive session is to discuss, I lost track.
to convene an executive session to discuss matters relating to the hire, evaluation, discipline, or dismissal of an officer or employee, to consult with the commission's attorneys on questions and issues pertaining to the commission's powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities.
Thank you, Chair, sorry.
No
Lost-
problem.
lost track.
Who was the second on that?
I did.
Okay, thanks, Ray. So we'll do the roll call. Vice Chair Fong. Vice Chair Fong.
Unmute.
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Gralty,
Aye.
Commissioner McCarthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Tobias,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So we will meet in executive session.
Thank you. Sorry, Chair, for the benefit of the members of the public who are here. I anticipate that, the commission will come out of executive session, but probably just to adjourn the meeting. I don't anticipate that there would be anything public to report at the end. So obviously you're welcome to stay. Oh, sorry, we lost Blaze already, but Sandy, you're welcome to stay if you'd like, but I'll see you later.
I can hang in the waiting room. Okay, so we are in our executive session now, and the chair votes aye, but now don't turn off your computers yet because we're just getting out of the executive session and returning to
Okay.
public session, which we will now adjourn, barring any comments, any last comments. Okay, we are back in public session now. And we will move on to our next agenda item, which is adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I hear a
Second.
Everybody wants to second it. Okay. Vice Chair Fong,
Aye.
Commissioner Gralty,
Aye.
Commissioner McCarthy,
Aye.
and Commissioner Tobias.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The meeting is adjourned. The time is 10:31. And we'll see you all Friday.